The passion or your vision or the purpose that God has for you is actually within you, but you don't even know. It's as you don't even take time to look at those inner voices or the things that are inside you that you do not sometimes take note of, but you have interest in. And that could be your actual purpose. And I think that I've discovered as you grow, you have to cut your path. You have to cut your path. Many people tell you no, but you are the one who knows why you want to do what you want to do. I grew up in the countryside, and as curious as any other young man, I was trying to find out how to get myself up and how to become relevant. But I didn't even know how to become relevant. I went to do, when I finish my primary school, I was among the best then. But before I say I was among the best, I wasn't the best student. In class 6, I went to class 7, and then when I went to class 7, when I was about to go to class 8, those years, I don't know whether it happens nowadays, we used to have all the names, you've done your exams, you've gotten 200 marks, 300 marks, mweka kwa board nyinyi yote. Sijui kama siku hizi ziko. Mweka kwa board nyinyi yote. So you can see number 1 is so and so. If you are the last one, unaonekana tu hapo. Yani wanatembea tu, lakini watu wakienda kwa board wanakuona ndio uko mwisho. Yani it used to be like that. So when they did that, I was the last. There was a cut-off line. There was a cut-off, and I was the last one to go to class 8. So I said, I just figured out. Now, sasa tukienda class 8. So mimi kwa sababu mimi ndio kwa mwisho hapo. Sinakuwa naenda na kwa mwisho in class 8. So I just thought, hey, nikasema hapana. I said, let me repeat class 7. But my dad, so when I made decision to repeat class 7, my dad was furious with me. Now, this is how my life transformed in terms of studies. My dad was mad. My dad asked me, why do you want to repeat? I told my dad, I want to repeat because I figured out if I go to class 8, I'm going to be the last one. I'm going to be the last one. He asked me, how? What do you know? What do you think? I don't know why I felt like that. He said, I was the last one. The others were up there. Mimi niko hapa number 25, sijui. Hawa wengine wako juu. So tukienda class 8, mimi nitakuwa wa mwisho. Nitakuwa navuta mkia na mistaki. Hey, come and see my dad. My dad was mad. But I like his madness. Because his madness made me change about studies. That December, because I told my dad, you know what? Me, I want to go to Alliance School. And I will not go to Alliance School at this level. I must repeat so that I can become better and go to Alliance High School. My dad could not hear any of it. He told me, not in my house. Hey, so I thought, what do I need to do? I just got a bit tough. I told him, you know what? If I don't go to Alliance High School or I get to a better school, then don't pay the school fees. I said, okay, wacha tuone. So now I had an assignment. So that December, I remember very well, I started reading. That's how my life now changed for book. So I began to study because now I've already told my dad, I need to go to Alliance. So I've repeated class 7, and now I need to be the best in the class. So I began to study. And true to it, because now I also said, si nyinyi niko hapa, nyinyi tumerepeat. So I'm actually ahead of you guys. We're repeating, so the ones I'm repeating with, niko top yenu, so I must be number 1. But you see, to maintain that, you must study. So I began studying. So that made me now to begin to top in classes and to be the best in the class. So even when you do class 8, I was number 1. And I was now actually number 2. And I missed Alliance High School by a few marks, but I got a good school in Machakos. Boys used to grow in Machakos County. I was Machakos Boys. When I went to Machakos Boys, my dad was very happy. Of course, he was very happy because I was among the best in the school. But I did not get the marks I wanted in high school. When I finished Form 4, that is not what I wanted. I got a B-, and that is not what I really wanted to do, because I wanted to do something different, something like medicine, or I do a degree, engineering degree, but I found myself not getting those marks to go to a university. And again, I did not like university at that time, because when we were growing, my brother and my 2 big brothers, they used to go and strike in the university. Now when they strike, they stay at home for 2 years doing nothing. So I hated university. I said, no, why do I go to university? When I go to university, I go and I stay 2 years. I go 2 years, I'm home. I go 2 years to end a strike. So I said, I don't want to go to university. So again, my dad and myself, now another fight there. But I thought, let me do this. Let me go and do accounts. He told me accounts is too hard. Why do you want to go and do accounts? I said, no, I like it. But before I finished high school, I got to know God at a personal level. And the perspective of my life began to change on how things are done. And I began to get a personal walk with God in high school. And therefore, in the way I began doing things, it changed from all my people and my brothers and the rest of the family were doing their things. Of course, sometimes you get a bit personal in the family. I remember one time I went back home and there was this occasion where my uncles and my dad had planned something, and they brought, they were saying, wachawi or something. No, don't go to wachawi. This waganga, that's the word. So I remember that day, and I was fresh from just having a personal walk in God and salvation. So I go home and I find my dad and my uncles have brought a mganga in at home. Hey, come and see fire. I told my dad, this thing is not gonna happen when I'm watching. My uncles were there. My uncles were like, what do you mean? I told them, yes, as long as I'm here, this thing is not happening. Oh my goodness, that thing went bad. I was chased away, actually I remember I was in Form 1. I was in Form 2. I was chased away. I was not boss. We cannot have you here. I was chased away. So my dad felt like this guy has become an outcast. Because you're saying you know God. Huyo Mungu, si tumekuwa tukimjua. Kwani wewe ndio umekuwa wa kwanza kujua Mungu? How come? We've known this God. You are not the first one, So I began like an outcast. But what that meant to me is that I have to start fighting for a path. I had to cut a path for myself. I began walking with God, and the more they told me those things, the more I got deeper in knowing God. And God never let me down. So again, I went to the church that we were fellowshipping there, and the same church told me, Charles, this kind of fanatism cannot be accepted here. So the church I was going in Oshago again, I was kicked out. So the entire village, nobody wanted to see me. I was an outcast. Because you remember those days, you're not pronouncing much about God, We all know God. What are you telling me? We all know. So I was actually an outcast in the entire village. Nikitembea tu hivi, wananiangalia tu wananipoint. And I just knew it, but I did what? I just focused. So a key fact about life is once you know what you're doing is right, focus on it. Avoid being derailed, people telling you all this. What you believe in, just focus on it and keep going. Keep going. I like that quote. I don't like John Walker, but I like the quote of John Walker. Just keep what? Keep walking. That thing makes you to get your results. So again, I kept on moving. But as I moved on, God gave me wisdom to know how to navigate with people. One moment I remember, let me just tell you this as we move on. One moment I remember, I talked with my dad, and this is now how God began turning my dad. One day I went for a crusade. I just finished high school. And I was just preparing to go to college. And this day there was a crusade in Machakos town, and I went to the crusade. And then my dad was a mechanical engineer, so that day I never went to he was my best friend. My dad was my best friend. Thank God he's passed on right now, but he was my best friend. So when I went to, in the evening now I come, ametoka kazini, mimi nimekuwa nimeenda crusade. So now he comes, and now he tells me, unajua tu mambo ya wazee tough, Nyinyi ndio mnaenda kupiga makelele huko, hiyo makelele uishangi. I listened to my dad. This is how my dad began to turn into the things of God. I listened to my dad. My dad was very tough. My cousin here knows my dad very well. Very good man, but extremely tough. And I told my dad, I've known you as a very wise man, but today, Dad, you've talked like those foolish men. I honestly don't know where that came from. I've known you, Dad, to be a very wise man. But today, Dad, you've talked like those foolish men. My dad never responded. He looked down. I looked at me. He took off. He went slowly, and he left me. But since that day, my dad began to take things that I told him very seriously. And he began to embrace me in the things that I was doing. Slowly by slowly, his heart began to believe in me. And I remember shortly thereafter, I now came to college and I went to join KCA to do CPA. When I went to do CPA, we were not doing very well at home, and this business started also not doing very well because there's a lot of competition. And several times I was chased out of college to go home to go and get school fees. I've been out of school many times just to go for school fees. I remember one time I went home and I stayed for around almost 2 months at home, and we have only 4 months to do your CPA section 2, section 3, and it took me 2 months at home, and I have to pass the exam. It was very tough for me during those years. But again, I come back to school, I come back to college, go back to the library, study, do the exams, and I remember several times I passed, other times I failed. I failed several times in CPA. One defining moment in my CPA career, and I think I mentioned this last time, is I failed because I failed in English. I don't know how I failed in English. I failed in English. I got a D+ in English. Honestly, Charles, I got a D+ in English. How do you get a D+ in English? Honestly. But I got a D+ in English. So because of that, I could not do CPA straight. So I had to do KTC. Those who understand this case. So I had to do KTC. So I did KTC 1, I passed very well. And I did KTC 2, but I failed in KTC 2 again. And the reason we failed, I mentioned this sometime, is we had a very good CU in KCA. Very nice CU. So every time when we finished classes at around 1, instead of going to the library to study, we used to go for fellowship and Kesha. Very good things we are doing, but again at the wrong time. And this is why we fail sometimes as you're growing up in college. We do things which are good, but at the wrong time, and we don't balance our time. Time management and not balancing us. So I failed because of that. So I go home, and again my dad was very instrumental in my life. He tells me, how can I be paying you school fees and you're failing? He told me, next time you fail, I am not going to pay school fees for you. Utakuja kaya hapa nyumbani. Hey, those words were heavy as a student. So I had to figure out what I need to do. But in the process, I met a friend of mine. And this guy is something very important. And for those who are in college, those who are in school, this is very important for you. I met this friend of mine. And this friend of mine tells me, Charles, that guy was doing section 4. I was doing KTC. If you're doing CPA those years, there was this guy called Gitao. You understand what that means. One is doing section 4, you're doing KTC 2. And you are failing. This guy is doing section 4. And he tells me, look, Charles, this is what God does. The Bible says that God blesses the works of your hands, right? So God sends an angel to come and see what you've done. If you've been doing very good work in fellowship, He blesses your spiritual life. If you have nothing in terms of books, the angel looks, this guy has not been reading, he has been Skyping. You Skype classes, hakuna kitu bless. And I say, this guy has not done anything. So the angel has nothing to bless in terms of books. So you sit there, you pray, oh Holy Ghost, remind me. There is nothing the Holy Spirit will remind you, because your mind is empty. He cannot remind you on anything. And then you remember the scripture that says, when the Holy Spirit shall come, He shall remind you of all things. But now there's nothing for you to be reminded of. He shall remind you. So there must be something for you to be reminded. I listened to my friend talking to me, and that word resonated with my spirit. And I said, I must change something about my life. So I changed college immediately. I never told my dad. I changed college immediately. I moved from KCA and I went to Visions. When I got to Visions, I found a very good CU, but the guys there were serious with books. You go and pray, you get serious with books. You go and pray, you get serious. In fact, they see you then in visions. When it came to times of awards, in Casnem, they are the ones getting awards. Hey, I said, Apana, I must also be in this club. I do remember immediately joining Visions. The next semester, I was among the top best students in KCA in Visions in the country on CPA. I have that award somewhere. I can show it up to you. That's a transition of around 6 months. And then suddenly become to be the best in class across the country. So what has changed? Time management, perspective. And this is where we fail. Time management and perspective. And the friends we keep around us, they have a big bearing on how you shape your life. Because life is, I was telling my daughter the other day, that life is like a timed program. If you miss a mark on the moment where you are today, if you don't do well today, that timed program that you missed will want to be repeated in the future. But there is nothing to be paid for. Like, for example, you miss your college, you miss your college, and then you move to the next level. You go and be asked, where are your certificates? They are not there. And you want to get back there and parents pay for you. They tell you you're already grown up. Go and pay for yourself. So life is like a timed program. When you skip something today, that thing will demand of you tomorrow. So you must take everything serious where you are today, because tomorrow there will be a revision class coming, and if you have nothing that you did yesterday, you'll have 0 to be given. There will be 0 marks for you to be awarded. So I began to be very serious with books, and then after that I finished CPA, and then I went to work. But I never looked for a job. I'm one of those people that God blessed. I never looked for a job. I remember one time I came from home, and there was no school fees again. I had gone back home to get school fees, and then I come to the library, and the guys at the library, the librarian said, Charles, your employer was here. I said, oh, employer? I have no employer. He said, yeah, Charles, your employer was here. I said, what do you mean my employer was here? I'm not employed. So an auditing firm was looking for the best guy in class. So these guys recommended my name. Even and I was in Oshago, I had actually gone for school fees, and I stayed at home for 3 weeks not having school fees. So even when I'm away, something good is happening. And then they say your employer was here. I said, what do you mean? So they actually gave me the name of those guys the next day, and then I went to that place. And when I went, they gave me a job. I never looked for a job that time in high school. Then in college. Then I began working. But when I began, the dynamics when you're working and you're in school, a bit different. But you see, I was going home for school fees. I was being chased from home for school fees. So I had to do something. So I began working, and then things began taking a turn at employment level. And I remember vividly that when I went to work, it was a different ballgame. And some of you have gone from school to employment. You realize the first 1, 3, 4, 5 months is always a very tough time, because you're trying to reconcile these two things, and it's not all. So I found myself in the same situation. But again, God gave me a lot of wisdom. I started doing auditing. It was a very interesting thing, and I liked it. But I never liked accounting and auditing. I even wondered why I did it. Because why do you have to sit in an office for 4 hours checking documents every day? And one of my worst moments where I hated accounts, sorry for those accountants like my cousin here, sorry, but for me, one of my boss one time, and this is how I hated accounts, one of my boss one time came and he told me, give me some receipts. They had gone for holiday with their wife, and they asked me, Charles, where were we? Where were we? They were just asking where we went. And those were 2 years. So I said, wait a minute, you go for holiday with your wife. I was not with you. You come to me as an accountant to tell me where you guys went. I said, no, God forbid. That's how I said I quit accounts because of that. You cannot go and spend your money, and simply because I'm your accountant, you never explain to me where you went with your wife. Now you come to the office, the auditors have come, and you want me to answer that question. At where were we? What do you mean? I mean, Angel, to know? I said, wait a minute. This life is a serious one. I need to define my path. I said, no, I can't do this thing. So anyway, the desire for what God wants you to do begins to unfold as you move. God must make you restless. God must make you restless. And I think as we move, I'm talking about the power of vision. Sorry, I've not defined myself, but I'm talking about the power of vision. God must make you restless for you to achieve what He wants you to achieve. Because I would have been sitting there saying, this thing is good. I'm getting good money. Because I think after that I became an auditor, and then I said, Apana, something must give in. So in the process of time, I get somewhere and then I get sacked. Just that time of, no, I don't want these things. I go back to the office one time and then I get sacked and ask these guys, what did I do? What did I do to get sacked? Show me what I've done. I've been very diligent in my work. What happened? Some guys went and accused me before my boss, and my boss believed them 100%. So I go to the office and I've been told, Charles, your work is done. That was one of my hardest moments. Shadrach was asked me, what is one of your hardest moments? That was one of my hardest moments, because I remember that time I just got married, and then I go back and then I'm told, Charles, sorry, we cannot employ you. Your job is finished. And I remember that is one of my lowest time in life. But this is how my journey to energy now picked up from you remember that wire? This is how my journey worked. Because when that happened, I remember asking God, so what do you want me to do? What next? And I called one of my friends, who is a very close friend of mine today, called Simon Mwacharo, who is my business partner today. And Simon Mwacharo is a gentleman we had met some years ago when I was in college. Actually, the first place I went to work in 1999, that guy, I found him there. A very good guy, cool and calm and collected, and we became friends. And he tells me, I called him and told him, you know what? I've just been told I cannot work with you. So it was, that's a simple one. I said, what do you mean? It's a simple one? So what do you want me to do? He said, no, come, let's work together. So at the time, he was doing small wind turbines. He was doing 200 watts, 100 watts, 500 watts, small wind turbines. So he told me, Charles, come. And I was doing his audit at the time and his books at the time. So he told me, come, let's see what we can do. So we joined hands. I went, and then at the same time, there's a company called Acumen Fund, and Acumen Fund wanted to fund that small project, and they wanted to give $200,000. That was back in 2016, no, 2005, 2006. They wanted to give funding for around $200,000. That was a lot of money by the time. The rate of exchange was around 86, 87, somewhere there. So we went and started something. And so I went and met that lady from Acumen Fund. She was called Clara. And then we did the books, and they liked what I did. And they said, this is a good guy, let's work with him. But fast forward, they never brought the funding. After around 6 months, they say, no, we were not able, the investment committee never brought the funding, and therefore the money was not released and approved. So I said, so what should we do? So we thought, why can't we do something big? Because those small wind turbines were not bringing some good revenue. We wanted to scale it up because the fund could have given us good money. So we said, why can't we do something big? But now, what is that big thing? We were not quite sure what that big thing is. We said, let's do a wind farm, all right? Let's do a wind farm and let's see how this can work. But again, do we know what a wind farm? No, we didn't know what a wind farm is. But just to give you some pointers on how we got myself there is, we had to do a lot of research, and life is about research. And especially today in this world, when things are getting new and new every day, when there's innovations that are happening every other time, you must be up to speed with what's happening through research. So we were doing a lot of research. So we did a lot of research and said, why can't we do something big? And we found how we can do a wind farm. We need to partner with people who have the money. We need to partner with people who have done manufacturing of the turbines, and that's what we began doing. So we did a lot of research and got the companies that we can work with. But the question is, how did we get these people? We didn't even know. And this is where sometimes when people ask me, Charles, how did you know you're gonna do this? I didn't even know anything. God was leading me. The thing is, you have to trust God to lead you in where you wanna go. What I just did not want to do, what I just not want is I was tired of having challenges and problems that we could not solve. And even by the way, before I even talk about the wind farm and what God has allowed us to do, I remember several times when we were in that process of doing the business, because young entrepreneurs ask me, Charles, how did you maneuver into these processes? How do you get yourself finding some funding and making sure your business stands up? I found myself trusting God to show me who to work with. Number one, you need to ask God, who do you want me to partner with? You meet people, and because you seem to be having a common idea, you think, should I partner with this person or not? And the thing is this, before you make partnerships with people, take time to pray, because businesses fail and raise on the partners you have. When, for example, you have money and we talked about raising funding, you raise fund like $20 million or you raise funds like $10 million, and then you sit down in a boardroom with a partner, and that partner, when you want to go and increase your stock in the business, your other partner wants to have money in the pocket. How do you balance those things if your partner does not have values like the values you have? So first thing is, as a young entrepreneur, who shares the same value with you? Those values are very important to build a business. I'll give you an example. Our partners right now, Simon, myself, and Dr. Namunje, we've been to the business together for the last, I don't know how many years, since 2004. That's how many years? 20 years. Every day we are talking. Every day we are spending time together. At times I talk with him during the day more than I talk with my wife. So if you choose a bad business partner, and that business partner with him every day, if you want to go and do business, they want to go to have fun, how will you build a business? So some of the things that we make mistakes about is your business partner. How do you choose your business partner? How do you relate with them? That's very important, and you need to do that by prayer. Sometimes you don't just choose things because they look nice. Ask God about them. So Simon comes in my life with Dr. Namunji, and then we begin to do something. But again, building business takes time. The business that God has given us by the grace of God is a very big business. We're the second largest wind farm in Africa. Not in Africa, sorry, in Kenya. And I think in Africa we're around number 3 or number 4 in Africa. But the thing is, by the time you get there, the challenges that you face, they require you to be very resilient. Like number one, when we began building this wind farm, we didn't even know where to get a partner. So we got some guys from Israel, and they said they want to be part of our partners. So when they came, we went to sign some MOU, because again, number one. Number two, when you are doing business, you must be very sure on the contractual obligations. You have to sign contractual documents. Don't just do business with people and you've not signed documents. Sign documents, because those are the documents that bind you together as partners in the business. And the legal documentations make sure that you're protected in law. So we signed a document with these guys. But one of the day we went for lunch, and they say, you know what? Today we have had some business news, and because of the business news that we've had, we feel that we can no longer continue this business. We asked them why. They said, like, Turkana Wind has signed a PPA with Kenya Power to deliver 300 megawatt of wind into the international grid, and therefore because of that, we feel we cannot continue this partnership. We asked these guys, so what do you want us to do? They said, go to KenGen and get some data. Go and get us data from somewhere. He said, from where? I said, no, go to KenGen. Now, KenGen, for those who don't know, I know you know much about KenGen, is a parastatal that deals with development of government projects in the country for energy projects. But you see, the way energy projects are done, every energy project is specific to where it is located. So you cannot get data from another project and deliver that data to be your data. So you tell these wazungus, but we can't do this. This is not. We don't believe, the God we believe in does not allow us to do this thing. They said, then if you cannot get the data, we are done. This transaction is dead. We will not continue. I remember that day very well. We were at Norfolk Hotel back in 2007. We were at Norfolk Hotel. We crossed over, the three of us, to Safari Park Hotel, which is just opposite, and we were all dejected. We were feeling, what do we do? We had seen this as a transaction that is coming to pass. We had prayed about it, and we knew we are getting somewhere. These guys were bringing the funding for the project, and now suddenly it's not there. This is why we find ourselves sometimes in. You've trusted God for something that has come to pass, and you think this is the end. Then suddenly, your bubble is busted, and you wonder, oh God, what do we do? And I remember us getting back to prayer and asking God, what do we do? And we didn't even know what to do. But again, the Bible says when steps of a righteous man are ordered of God. When your steps are ordered of God and you keep on asking God for wisdom, you'll always order your steps to where you need to go. So my partner, Simon, was invited for a meeting, I think not long ago after that, at the Serena Hotel. And when he did his presentation, just like what our brother was doing today, down there in the presentation, he put our license for the wind farm. And then he did the presentation, and then he said, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening to me. And before I close this meeting, there's this one thing God for means of energy, and yeah, if we are trusting God, we get something for this. There was a guy in the meeting from General Electric, and he said, wait, someone wait. Do you have that? I said, yes, we have this. He said, see me after this meeting. That is how we got General Electric to come and partner with us, because they were looking for people who they can develop projects with in Africa at the time. They had lost $20 million, even actually more, in South Africa, and they were looking for how they could do this project in Kenya as a new company, as a new entity. So they said, let's discuss about that. So that's how we got ourselves General Electric. We began to discuss with them. They said, wow, can we sit down? We said, yes, why not? So when the gentleman is called George Jenga, very good friend of mine right now, even today, he will be coming this meeting next year, because next year, these are the guys you're bringing. George Jenga is he's actually right now the chairman of the biggest wind farm in Kenya. It's called Lake Turkana Wind. He's now the chairman of that Lake Turkana Wind. He's actually having his office here. He told me he's coming to join me now. He's be having his office near here. So George Jenga will be here with us because he's very much involved in fundraising for businesses and fundraising for projects and grant funding. So he's very involved in that, and I've asked him to come and speak to us. So this next year is one of our guys who will be speaking with us. So John Jenga comes and says, let's do this project. And that was like our light bulb moment, because when GE came, for those who don't know GE, General Electric is a company that deals with generation of Thomas Edison actually was the founder of GE. He's the one who now with time, that line they founded GE. So General Electric does manufacture wind turbines. And those are the turbines we have right now. So when they came in, they were so happy because they were to partner with us to deliver the turbines and also do what you call operation and maintenance for the wind farm. And that's how General Electric came. And when they came to us, we were able to partner with them, and they delivered for us the turbines. And again, they delivered for us the operation and maintenance for those turbines. But before we say how, because that's the long and short of it. How do we get this process done? That was just the beginning. And we took around 10 years before we could start getting money. So how are we surviving in between? How are we living? And this is where when you are a lady and you get married to an entrepreneur, you need to pray twice. It is not easy, because entrepreneurs do not have consistent revenue in the early stages of their businesses. And I do remember we have done so many businesses in between that time and when we began getting our first revenue. I was running at one point of time a Coca-Cola shop. I was selling soda and what? I have gone to the Kikomba market to buy many things. Wakulima market. I used to come to Wakulima market in the morning because you are building a business. Because now after being sacked, what are you going to do? I was building a business. So as you build business and you have your vision of where you want to go, you cannot but derail yourself. You know where you want to go, so you're raising some cash for yourself in the process. So I was having a Coca-Cola shop at one point of time. I have sold cereals several times. Cereal is one of the best businesses, by the way. I have sold cereals enough times. I have sold sukuma wiki and cabbage. Those are things I used to, and you know there's very good profit in cereals, in cabbage, in spinach and skuma. That area and nyanyas, there's very good margin in that area. I've done that many years. I think it was around 2 to 3 years, consistently. And besides that also, I do remember I used to do printing at one point of time. Because again, you have to look at how do you get your cash flow, because you're building a business, which is a big business, but it's not giving you revenue right now. And that gave me also wisdom for negotiation. And this is what I was telling my brother Kinoti there. When you get guys who are coming in to partner with them, that's what we know right now. It's not what we used to know that time. That time we are not knowledgeable. Now we know what to do. When those guys come to negotiate with you to come and join your business, you negotiate for something called a retainer fee. They don't just come to your business. Ask them for a retainer fee. They have come because you have something they need. So what you do, ask for a retainer fee. We didn't know that. That was our first business. We did not even understand how you negotiate these things, because none of us was an engineer. None of us has never done a project development. We're just passionate about doing this business. So today what you do, when such people come and they want to work with you, ask them for what you call management fee, because that keeps you running as the business is growing.